at 8 on WTCI.
Which, by the way, all that is required is a 10-foot landscape buffer. I spoke with many potential buyers for this property, and at the end of the process, I entered into a contract with Integra because I felt they were high-quality and experienced developers that would bring what we were looking for in Ottawa. This site was set to come before the County Commission in February of this year, and I opted to seek annexation of the property by the city because I felt the City Council had more experience in dealing with mixed-use developments. At no time during this process was I promised, nor was anyone ever promised, that the property would be automatically rezoned. No backroom deals were ever cut. This required going back through a public process, which ended in coming back to the City Council here with you tonight. And the public has commented and been welcome to comment every step of the way. We have heard the concerns of the county residents in our neighborhood, and we have made every effort to address their number one concern and ours, which is safety. There's been dialogue with the opposition throughout this process, and I've been advised of this. I have for the most part stayed in the background, but I have received periodic updates all along the way. I wish for the council to know that I only wanted from the very beginning a quality development because I live and work here also. If the City Council passes this application, we are committed to continue to be available to discuss the concerns and to address them to the best of our abilities. Thank you very much.
Mr. Murphy.
The rear that in the depictions has been represented as remaining forested is currently zoned C2 temporary and was zoned C2 previously when it was not in the city?
The rear portion of the property, which is, if this apartment development is approved by council tonight, the portion from the rear of this development down to the creek would actually, about 8 acres, would be left in a conservation easement and would be zoned R3 or whatever this council's will.
Is the conservation easement in place?
No, sir. It would be in place subject to if this is approved.
And if this weren't approved, then this entire property, at least half of it or a good portion of it, is C2 property. It's subject to highly intense commercial development, correct?
Let me try to describe it this way. The creek is a dividing line between the properties. Everything that is on the creek towards the interstate side, that is all zoned commercial. Everything from the creek back towards Hunter Road, that's all residential.
Right. And I saw that, but my question is, assuming that this plan doesn't go through, and we follow the Planning Commission's recommendation, there's still a significant portion of land that's subject to C2 development, which is highly intense.
That is correct, yes, sir. But that's located in the portion that's been filled in that is adjacent to Hunter Road and through that area. Yes, sir.
In regard to the land use plan itself, there is no recommendation as to actual zones. There is only just a suggestion as to how the land should be used categorically, correct?
That is correct. Is that Karen? Yeah, that's correct.
So in regards to R1, R3, both classify as residential. However, this plan is not making any suggestion one way or the other. It's just talking about density.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I guess we're ready for the opposition.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Anderson. I'm with the firm of Grant, Convalenca, and Harrison. I represent Ottawa Citizens for Responsible Growth, a group composed of people within and without the city of Chattanooga. And if I may, I'd like to ask all of those with that group to please stand. All right, you may be seated. Thank you. And I'd also like to note that County Commissioner Bill Hollander is here. Commissioner Hollander is here as to this plan, the Wolf-Teaver plan, since it was adopted also by Hamilton County in June of 2007. I'd also like, for the record, to do a couple of things, if I may. One is, I'd like to clarify for the record that the applicant in this case is not Dr. Tim Ballard. The applicant is the city of Chattanooga. According to the application that was filed May 20th, 2010, the applicant is the city of Chattanooga, filed on the city's behalf by RPA. Now, I say that only because between RPA and Dr. Ballard, there's been about 30 minutes worth of presentation here, and so I wanted to see if we were going to, as an opposition, also have that kind of luxury. But while I'm doing that, if I may, I'd like to submit for the record, this is a booklet prepared by the Ottawa Citizens for Responsible Growth. This is also a hard copy of an electronic copy of petitions in opposition to this that has been signed by more than 2,000 individuals in and around this area. I think the booklet that was presented yesterday, you have that. And electronically, we wanted to give a hard copy of that. We did not make a hard copy for everybody in the interest of saving trees. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out a couple of things. We're here tonight really on a couple of basic points. I want to go back through the timeline. I want to ask Stan Burton, who's with Ottawa Citizens, to join me. I'd like to ask Charlie Miller of Miller and McCoy, traffic engineer, to also join us, if you will, and say a couple of things. This is a pretty straightforward situation. This is a question of whether, and I respectfully disagree with Mr. Haynes. I've worked with Mr. Haynes over the years. I think this plan is crystal clear. The Wolf-Teaver plan is crystal clear. The map at the end of the plan, like it does on all the plans, this City Council adopts, as well as the County Commission, shows the area affected. There is no medium intensity residential zoning contemplated by the map, which is keyed at the end of the plan. It would be pretty cumbersome to read the plan, go all the way through, see the key, and then have to go back through to find the key to where it goes. Second part of that is on section 4.7.4 of the plan. It's about medium intensity residential zoning. 4 to 10 units per acre. Talks about townhomes, patio homes, carriage homes, small apartment complexes. All right. The reason I point that out, the picture that's even used in the plan is a picture of a patio home, not of an apartment. You're going to hear, you may already hear in rebuttal, or you may hear in rebuttal, well, we're taking the gross acres of 23, we're applying the density of 230 units, that's 10 units per acre. Well, you may hear that's the way it's always been done. Always, of course, doesn't make it right. It just makes it always. If it's always good to jump off a bridge, I guess we should all jump off a bridge. Or if it's always good to do a certain contract in one way, then always is that. The reason I make that point is 10 acres of this property is so topographically different from the remaining 13 acres as to be completely unusable for this development. So you shouldn't look at this as a 23-acre tract. You should look at this as a 13-acre tract with 230 apartment units on it that provides high density, not medium density, not what's called for in the plan, not 10 units per acre, and it should be usable acre, so that you have an apples-to-apples comparison. Randy has pulled for you the slide. You see this total gross site acreage at 23 acres. That area that's wooded down is so topographically different. A great elevation and grade change. Unusable for any part of this development. That's why it's not being used. If it were usable, they wouldn't be putting it in a conservation easement. They'd be putting more units on it. This has been turned down 3 times by the Regional Planning Commission. 2003, twice in 2010. The timeline you saw in 2010 and 2003, project less than half this size. The concerns were, what a surprise, traffic. The concerns were lack of infrastructure. It's turned down by the Regional Planning Commission, recommended against. Interestingly enough, Mr. Price was on the commission at that time and voted against that apartment project. Now, Councilwoman Burrs makes a good point. 2007, today, it's a different world in some respects. Volkswagen made its announcement summer of 2008. Should you update this plan? We think the answer to that's yes. But if you do, you need to go through the same methodology that you went through to adopt the plan to start with. You involve the stakeholders. You involve the citizens. You involve those people out there. You do the traffic studies. You look at all of the things that go into this. You don't go and annex in April of 2010, have it effective May 21, 2010, file your application for rezoning by the City of Chattanooga through RPA May 20,